Out of curiosity, how many of you have actually bought from Zappos before? Well, thank you for all your support. I guess, so as Saul mentioned, the book just came out a few months ago, and I wanted to write the book for a couple different reasons. One is because from the outside, it seems like Zappos was this overnight success, doing over $1 billion in gross merchandise sales, and we made Fortune Best companies to work for a list, and it just seems like we're doing everything right. But the truth is, we made a lot of mistakes along the way and learned a lot of lessons. And prior to Zappos, I made a lot of mistakes in my previous companies and experiences and learned a lot of lessons along the way as well. And there's also one very important element in that we also got very lucky, and I got very lucky several times, and wanted to talk a little bit about luck during this presentation. The second reason for writing the book is because I think we're actually just at the beginning of a very special time. I think maybe 50 years ago, businesses felt like they had to choose between maximizing profits or making customers happy or making employees happy. Whereas for us, today, we're at the beginning because everyone's hyper-connected and information travels so quickly through Twitter, Facebook, blogs, and so on that I think it's actually possible to have it all, to make customers happy, to make employees happy, and for us, that really comes from focusing on company culture, and to have that drive business profits and growth. And in terms of making employees happy, we really strive to have a family culture. And one of our interview questions when we talk to employees, and we think about when we interview potential employees and we think about, okay, what kind of culture do we want to build? One of our interview questions is actually, on a scale 1 to 10, how lucky are you in life? 1 is, I don't know why bad things always seem to happen to me. 10 is, I don't know why good things always seem to happen to me. Well, we don't want to hire the ones because they're bad luck, and we don't want bad luck to come to Zappos. But this was actually inspired by a research study I'd read about several years ago, where they actually asked a random group of people the exact same question. So they got answers all over the board. Some people said 1, some said 10, and a bunch said some numbers in between. And then afterwards, they had them do a task. And the task was to go through a newspaper and count the number of photos that were in that newspaper. But what the participants didn't know was that it was actually a fake newspaper, and sprinkled throughout the newspaper were these headlines that would say things like, if you're reading this now, you can stop. The answer is 37. Plus, tell the researcher you saw this and collect an extra $100. And what they found was that the people that consider themselves unlucky in life generally never noticed the headlines. They just went through the task at hand and eventually came up with the right answer. Whereas the people that consider themselves lucky in life generally stopped early and made an extra $100. So the takeaway is that it's not so much that people are inherently lucky or unlucky in life, but luck is really more about being open to opportunity beyond just how the task or situation presents itself. And so that's why we ask that question for our employees, and that's a big part of our culture. And specifically, we have a core value that it's stated as being adventurous, creative, and open-minded. And as a kid, one of my favorite TV shows was MacGyver. And just out of curiosity, how many of you have seen or heard? Okay, I'm glad that you guys have, because I spoke at, where was it? Oh, University of Iowa a couple weeks ago, and to college students, and none of them had heard of it. So that made me feel very old. So I'm glad I'm amongst my peer group. And so one of the reasons why I really liked the show was because he never had quite exactly what he would ideally like, and yet he was somehow able to take paper clip and duct tape and convert it into a sailboat that could go across the ocean. And for me, I think that's what I love about being an entrepreneur is you get to play MacGyver with business. And one of my favorite quotes is something about it's not ever a question of not having enough resources. It's about not having enough resourcefulness. And I really like playing MacGyver and really, as an entrepreneur, trying to really figure out, it's about having that combination of creativity and optimism and having faith that eventually it's going to work out in the end. You don't know exactly how, but eventually you'll find your way. And that's kind of the path that we took over at Zappos. We didn't have this grand master plan from the beginning, and today kind of our mission is it's all about delivering happiness, which is the title of the book. And we didn't always focus on company culture, and we didn't always focus on customer service. In fact, when we first started in 1999, it was very simple. Let's just become the online market leader in shoes, and so let's focus on having the best selection in shoes. Well, about 4 years into it, in 2003, we all kind of sat around and asked ourselves, what do we want to be when we grow up? Do we want to be about shoes, or do we want to be about something more meaningful? And our original motivation for this was actually more about not wanting to back ourselves in a corner and just be about shoes. And so we said, okay, what's more general than shoes? And that's when we decided, actually, let's build our brand to be about the very best customer service and customer experience. And then that way, we're not limited to just shoes. And in fact, one day, there could be a Zappos Airlines, for example, that's not even about e-commerce. It's just about the very best customer service. And when we decided, okay, this sounds like a kind of crazy idea, but we're not limiting ourselves to just shoes, when we really committed to it and communicated this to our employees, something funny happened that we didn't expect at all. What we found was that suddenly employees were a lot more engaged and passionate about the company. And when customers called, they could sense that the person on the other end of the phone wanted to truly provide great service. They weren't there just for a paycheck. And then when vendors came, we found that they wanted to visit us more frequently and stay longer because all that enthusiasm was rubbing off onto them. So all of these things had this kind of multiplicative snowball effect that we weren't anticipating and really drove a lot of our growth over the years. And what we found out later, and I wish I'd read about this earlier, was actually through research from books such as Good to Great and Tribal Leadership, both of which are books that we now have classes for our own employees. What they found was that companies that have a higher purpose beyond just money or profits or being number one in the market actually have a better chance at becoming a greater company and generating more profits in the long term. And this was something that we just kind of accidentally stumbled into. A couple years after that, we started thinking about, okay, how important is company culture? At my previous company that I had co-founded, the company culture just went completely downhill. And so from the beginning, we paid attention to it. We said, okay, culture is important. But in 2005 was when we decided, you know what, instead of just saying it's important, let's actually make it the #1 priority of the company, with the belief that if we get the culture right, then most of the other stuff, like delivering great customer service or building a long-term enduring brand, will just happen naturally on its own. So that's when we came up with our list of 10 core values. If you do a Google search for Zappos core values, you can see what they are. The difference is, and actually what's interesting is that was actually one of those things that there was some resistance to, even from myself personally, because it felt like one of those big corporate things to do. But the difference is when we came up with our list of core values, we wanted values that we could actually commit to. And by committing to, meaning we're willing to hire or fire people based on them completely independent of their actual job performance. And when you use that criteria, it's actually a pretty hard list to come up with. But we spent about a year coming up with it, and we involved the whole company. It was a very collaborative effort. And then a couple years after that, in 2007, we started thinking about, okay, what does it mean to deliver great customer service? And some companies do it through technology, and it's all about taking the high-tech approach and making things as efficient as possible. Whereas we decided we wanted the Zappos type of customer service to be about the human side of it. And internally, we came up with this acronym, PEC, which stands for Personal Emotional Connection. And we wanted to develop a personal emotional connection with not only our customers, but with our vendors and with each other as well. And so with our call center, we don't have scripts. We don't try to upsell. It's really just about trying to brand ourselves in terms of providing very personal service and having that connection that's more than just about a transaction with a company. So you might call once and get someone who loves telling jokes. And if that person is great at telling jokes and making you laugh, then that's great. We don't tell our reps, you must tell jokes or you don't tell jokes. Just do what's right with that fits your personality and the customer's personality. And then you might call a second time and maybe not get a joke teller, but you get someone who, say, here's your dog barking in the background. And if the rep also has a dog, then the two of you can bond over dogness, or whatever dog owners talk about. Or if you're from the same hometown, then you can talk about that. And so really that took our customer level to, it differentiated us. We went the high-touch approach as opposed to the high-tech approach. And then last year, we took a step back and realized, okay, customer service and that personal approach is all about making customers happy, and our culture is all about making employees happy. So really, let's try to tie it all together and have Zappos be about just delivering happiness in general, whether it's to customers or employees or to vendors as well. And what that led us to do was develop this service called Zappos Insights, where if you go to zapposinsights.com, you'll see that there's anything ranging from a video subscription service to we host these 1-day or 2-day seminars to help other companies actually develop their own strong cultures and essentially use happiness as a business model to not only, we're spreading it beyond just Zappos. And it's been really neat because we've even heard stories from, one of them is the Atlanta Refrigeration Company, based in Atlanta, Georgia. They do refrigeration repairs. So in some ways, you can't think of a more opposite industry or company. And they went back and really went after, this was about a year ago when they first went through this program, and now they are reporting back their customers are happier, their employees are happier. They even sent us before and after pictures, and it's really neat seeing the effect that this is having on their offices and their culture, and their revenues and profits are up. And so this idea of happiness as a business model spreading to other companies in other industries is really, really exciting for us. And it's definitely not something we planned from the beginning. It's probably, we couldn't have even imagined it 3 years ago. But it's one of those things where I think for us, we've always tried to just keep an open mind and not think of ourselves as just a shoe company or just an e-commerce company, but really just look beyond just how the situation presents itself, how it might be perceived as what most businesses would do. Instead, try to make ourselves as lucky as possible. I'm going to bring Jen up. We're actually on a cross-country bus tour visiting 23 cities, and Providence is city number 6. So I'll let you talk a little bit about what we're doing, because what's exciting is we're trying to, this whole bus tour, and the movement behind the book, what we're finding is, and we didn't anticipate it again, is spreading far beyond just businesses.
Yeah, so this bus tour, I guess soon after we launched the book, got on the New York Times bestseller list, which was amazing, and then we started getting letters and emails from all over the world, from all over different industries and business, but also from students, from academia, from churches, from healthcare. I mean, it was just incredible. So we knew this was something more than what we started with, was writing a book. And so we said, why don't we go on a tour and sort of make it bigger than a book tour? It's a bus tour. So we bought a 50-foot bus, converted it into the Happy Bus, so took out the 90s rock star out of it and put in delivering happiness in it. And we have a team of 10 people on the bus at any given time, and we hit the road. And we thought, we came up with the theme of inspire and be inspired. And that was because all the letters we got, all the emails we got, we were being inspired by these people that we had no idea where they came from, but they had these rich, rich stories. So when we hit the road, for example, so one of the first ones we hit was Iowa. This woman came up to us, her name is Victory, and she comes from Luck, Wisconsin. I can't even make those things up. And she drove 7 hours from Wisconsin to meet us in Iowa. And she was just so struck by what Tony was saying, and we had like sort of like a town hall sort of forum. And she's like, I can't, she had a shipping company, she entrepreneur, yada yada yada, and she's just like, wow, you guys are incredible, and not just Tony, but she just like, we just got along with her so well. She's like, I'm driving again. I'm driving 6 more hours to meet you in Chicago. And so I was like, are you serious? Don't you have a business to run?
Yeah, and just so you know, on average, there's about 10 of us on the bus at any one time. There's 9 bunks. The bus is actually parked outside, so during the break, we're going to have probably not all of you at once, but we'll be giving tours during.
So another stop was Iowa, or it was the same stop, and he was talking about when we went to the University of Iowa, which was a different kind of setting, because it wasn't about business, it was about students, and we were talking to undergrad class and telling stories about where we had come from. I had come from a pre-med major. I said I dropped it and majored in something I was really passionate about, which was Asian American Studies, to the dismay of my parents, but I got a job out of school in the internet business and then got laid off. Didn't know what I wanted to do in life. Started doing things I was passionate about, writing, graphic design, yada, yada. And here, 10 years later, I'm on this bus with 10 other people, dear people, delivering happiness to the world. And so we got a letter from the professor a few days later. He said that one of the students in the class dropped her pre-med major and is now majoring in art education. Because she's always wanted to be an art teacher. So my first reaction was, wow, that's incredible. And the second one was, well, I think we probably have hits on our head from her parents after she went home and told them. One of the other moving stories was in Chicago, where we went to this music festival, and there's this 80s band, and there was a woman in the front. She was just dancing her heart out, and she saw us carrying one of these signs. And she asked to carry it, and so we gave it to her, and she's just dancing. And all these videos, by the way, if you're even interested in what we're doing, is on our website, deliveringhappinessbook.com. And several songs later, she's like, "Thank you so much. I really needed this." And so it's like there's this look in her eyes, and I was like, "What happened?" She's like, "Well, my sister just died last week," and you could tell she was still processing it, of course, but then she started just telling the whole story, how she got the call, she was missing, and realized later that she had passed away. And we sat in the bus for, 15 minutes just talking about all this. And it's one of those things that you never really know how you're going to be inspired by these people, but this one really struck me on a deep level. And the next day she sent me an email and said, "Thank you for that. That was therapy." So I guess...
Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to keeping an open mind, and we don't know exactly where this bus will end up. Hopefully, the last stop is Seattle, so hopefully it'll end up in,
Yeah.
in Seattle. But we don't know,
nice.
What's going to become of it. This is Providence is city 6 of 23,
Yeah.
and we're gonna at the end of the session actually we've arranged to give everyone in here a free copy of the book, and then you can take a tour during the break as well. And I guess the final thing I want to say is, the subtitle of the book is A Path to Profits, Passion, and Purpose, and that's really what we've stumbled on and learned over the years at Zappos in terms of what we need in order to make for a good business. And then through the science of happiness research that I talked a little bit about the book, and that we're starting to also rediscover through this tour, happiness is about being able to combine pleasure, passion, and purpose. And so it's just really neat seeing these two things that initially started out as two separate worlds for me kind of just melt together. So thank you very much.